welcome to Design Review Committee meeting for tonight. I would like to call this meeting to order, and we'll start with the flag salute. One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. A roll call, please.
Commissioner Laycon, Committee Member Laycon.
Present.
Committee Member Thotnews.
Present.
Committee Member McKay.
Present.
Alternate Rich Chow.
Present.
Alternate Tony Chow.
Present.
I just realized this was your name wrong. Sorry, Rick. Absent today is Peter Wong and Raymond Chang.
This is just a little note, which is that it's, I believe it's Vice Chair Laycon.
Vice Chair Laycon. Did I say Chair Laycon? Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. The agenda is posted 72 hours prior to the meeting at the following locations: San Marino City Hall, San Marino Public Library, San Marino Recreation Department, and the San Marino website. I will go over the hearing procedures. Each committee member has received plans and has reviewed every item on the agenda and visited each site. The general order for hearing each case will be as follows. The committee will ask staff any questions they may have. The chair will then ask the applicant or the applicant's representative to comment on the proposal. The hearing will then be opened to the public, and the chair will ask for comments for, against, or about the project. In all cases, please come forward and give your name and address. At the conclusion of the public comments, the applicant will have a chance to respond, and no further comments from the public will be accepted. The chair will then ask for comments from each of the committee members. If there is no motion or approval or denial, the DRC has the option of continuing the application to a future meeting. In the event of a denial, it is hoped that the applicant will have heard comments during the public comment period and during deliberations that will be useful in resubmitting an application. It is important for the property owner to understand that once the project is approved by the DRC, the drawings become legal documents. If any changes are made to the project subsequent to approval without obtaining proper approval of the changes, then the property owner is in fact breaking the law. There is a risk of having to change the project back to the original approved design or paying a fine to the city of San Marino equal to the greater of 5% of the project valuation or $2,500, and then resubmitting the changes made to the project to the DRC. It is also important to understand that there is a 15-day appeal period after action has been taken for the applicant or any interested party to request the Planning Commission to review and act on the case. After all the agenda items have been heard, 2 Design Review Committee members will conduct the open forum. At this time, residents or their representatives may ask committee members about current or future projects related to their property. Committee members can discuss the design with you, but cannot comment on how they might vote on the project. Okay, let's start. Agenda item number 1.
Do you need me to also go through, sorry to interrupt. but
Sure.
Do you need me to go through how to comment on each agenda item? Because I believe that was on the
I'm sorry.
directions. For each item on the agenda, there'll be time for public comment in how to do this.
Oh.
Do you need me to go through that? Okay.
Is there anyone here for public comment?
Right now, no. It doesn't look like we have it
Okay.
online either, so.
Thank you. Thank
Okay,
you.
But there are 3 ways. Okay. All right, so I will be calling for the first of the agenda item. It's a design review case number DRC 21-53 at 1300 Virginia. The applicant requests improvements to the property as pursuant to City Code Section 23-1503H, matter subject to design review, for the construction of paving or impervious coverage within the front yard that exceeds 25% of the total front yard area. The project is located on an improved 22,038 square foot lot with a single-family home in the R1 zone area, District 1.
Is that the staff? Do you have a staff report?
That was the, sorry,
It's okay.
it's been a little while. Do you want recommendations, or that is the agenda item? There was, this project has been to hearing before on October 20th at the request of staff. We pulled it from the meeting to go back and reanalyze the project. There is no proposed tree removals as a part of this project. However, it is possible that trees were removed or vegetation was removed prior. I believe the applicant is prepared to speak on that. There is no historic preservation element with this, as this subject property is not identified as a potential historic resource on the citywide historic resources survey report. We received actually, I believe, 13 approvals. One of them was not recorded on the map that was provided as part of the staff report, but as I understand, and I have it written down, 1280 Virginia. We did have a letter received, but it just wasn't recorded properly on the map.
Mhm.
We had no objections received, and the staff is recommending that the project be approved with conditions.
Mhm. Okay, thank you. Do committee members have any questions for staff? Go ahead.
Thank you. My question for staff is, what has changed since the initial proposal of October 20, 2021 on this case number?
I think the applicant would be best suited probably to talk to what has changed. But the reason we pulled it was we weren't sure that it was properly noticed the first time in terms of how it was being applied, based on the questions that we were receiving from the committee. So that's why it's coming back the second time.
But I recall that there was quite a bit of discussion on this item on October 20, and I'm wondering if the applicant notified staff or the city of any modifications or changes to the project.
I believe there are changes to the steps at the northwest, I want to say. It's in the analysis. Let's say it's the upper left side of the lot in the front yard. There are some changes to the steps as I understand it there. And I believe there might be some changes to the pavers though that are being proposed are pretty much the same with some other changes to it. But I believe the applicant can answer that question.
We had a total paving within the front yard on October 20, 2021 application of 35%, exceeding the 25% standard or maximum, I should say. And what is your understanding of the current percentage?
It's still over 25%. My understanding is that it's 34.7 at this time. And previously,
Essentially the same then. It was 35% before.
yes.
Any other questions?
Yeah, can I just, if staff, can you just help clarify the conditions that are outlined? That you recommended.
That we recommended that the project show at least one new 36-inch box tree, because at the time we weren't sure about removal of trees, and I think that's reflected in the analysis.
Mhm.
Planting plan for all areas of the front yard. Since the project doesn't show a planting plan currently on it, it just shows where the pavers are going to be, and it shows existing trees. And that would also capture any new trees that are being asked to be provided, as well as a recommendation for a hedge located at the center of the circular driveway. And that was suggested at the initial hearing, or part of the staff report of the initial hearing, as a measure to screen the cars if that was a concern. And that would also be reflected in an updated landscape plan.
So just to understand, so then the plan, this would all just be conditional and then it would go to staff for review and approval.
We would be confirming that the landscape plan would reflect that what you guys would want on it. So if you wanted hedges to be in a certain area, those hedges we'd ask that the hedges be in a certain area. If you wanted a box tree or more than one box tree to be planted, we'd be confirming that that box tree would be planted.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
And
Any
if there's
other
any other
questions?
landscape also, I think there might be just one slight clarification on this project, which is, I believe, and it's reflected in the analysis, the applicant has basically what's called a non-conforming permitted driveway currently. What happened, we think, and is reflected in the analysis, is they received a street permit for the circular driveway, which goes through Public Works. It was part of a scope of work that also included sewer repair. And we think it might have slipped through planning review at that time. So he does have a permit, and the permit's been finalized. So it's permitted work in the front yard. And he's coming back today to ask for a change to the pavement to the front yard. So that's why we're at probably pretty similar percentages. What's there is in terms of the circular driveway, and the steps, as I understand it, is what's existing. The existing might be non-conforming legally. Do you have any questions regarding that?
Yeah,
Yes. Go for
I
it.
do.
Okay.
I mean, you've partly addressed it. I'm just trying to,
Wrap head around it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I did read this very carefully before coming here, but the way it's written is that it may have been approved and may be considered partially legally permitted but non-conforming. So that seems pretty non-committal on the city's part. Like, nobody's willing to say that it is legally permitted and non-conforming. There's just kind of a presumption of that.
My understanding is when something has a permit, that permit is then considered, basically it's finalized. I can't think of a reason in which we would revoke the permit. So that's why it's probably written a little bit wishy-washy. But when something is permitted, it's allowed. The problem is that it's non-conforming. So he doesn't have any rights to change what he has currently there.
So how is it permitted then?
So he applied for a permit. He applied for a street permit for the curb cut.
Right.
And then he applied for permits to planning for the rest of the scope of the work, but I don't think that the circular driveway necessarily was brought at our attention. And we signed off on, there was sign offs, inspections.
Mhm.
So it's a finished permit. It's a completed permit.
So it's not the
Like we don't.
it's not the owner's responsibility to ensure that those permits were properly acquired as long as someone just signs off on them? Signs off on the final inspection?
My understanding is once we sign off on something, it's permitted.
So sign off means that the final inspection sign off or some other permit sign off?
I'm nodding my head, which you can't see on camera.
No.
Yes, final sign off
Okay.
means that it's final.
It's the final inspection.
Yeah.
Okay. So, okay, that's all I have to ask right now. Thank you.
I have a follow-up to that question. When he applied for the curb cut permit, I haven't seen the permit. Does that have dimensions on it?
No, and I have a copy that I can share with you.
I'm asking that because the plan has a measurement of 12 feet across. And when I was at the property, I noticed it looked much larger and I measured it at 13.9. So I didn't know if there was a requirement on the permit.
So if there's measurements on the plan that he's given us, they have to be drawn to scale and they have to be held to the measurements that he's given us. So if what's currently existing is greater than what's actually reflected on the plan, and he's asking for a change, and the changes are supposed to be reflected on that plan, like measured wise, we have to hold to actually what's on the plan.
So he would have to make the driveway smaller. Okay, thank you. Any more questions
Yeah.
for staff? Go ahead.
I have more. So there was also, and again, I'm not sure if this is for you or for the applicant, but it seems like maybe for both. There was also some discussion at the last meeting that, we're sort of being asked to say, well, this is already non-conforming but permitted. But there was like a part of the driveway in the middle that was just rocks, like gravel.
Mhm.
So it wasn't the driveway wasn't even completed. So, or it appears that it wasn't completed because there's half of a driveway, some
Pea
dirt,
gravel.
Pea
gravel,
Yeah.
and then another half of or sort of a half of the driveway. So I was just wondering how that affects the calculations and what does that mean? Does that mean that that is actually conforming? Because is it a driveway or is it part of a driveway that's existing right now?
I don't know if the definition, like how broad the definition of driveway is, like if it's very specific and says the driveway consists of this and it has to be compacted or concrete. I don't know at this moment. I think what we have is we have basically what is believed to be used as a driveway currently, that consists of impervious material, as I would consider the current gravel there is impervious. And what's in front of us is if we want to continue on with it as it is, or grant an improvement to it. Does that make sense?
What was the last statement? Or grant a what?
Improvement, the improvement that he's asking for to it.
Oh, grant. Thank you.
So I see you have a follow-up and you can see the wheels turning.
Yeah, it's just, it's hard to really track what happened exactly, but I'm
Yeah.
following you. Thank you.
Yeah, and I would say the pea gravel itself, when we look at impervious material, consistently impervious has been everything but vegetation from my
Mhm.
understanding. So that gravel there, unless it was mulch, and it's not, we're talking about gravel, would be considered an impervious material. So whether it was used as driveway or not, it's still looking at that 35% or that 25%, is it, over 25% impervious and therefore non-conforming.
Mhm. Mhm.
Does anyone else have a question? I have one more question. Were there any, as we noticed, the front property, the parkway in the front yard was all not clear cut, but it was all cleared of all vegetation except for those trees. And you're asking, and the condition is for a landscape plan. So has nothing been submitted to the city as far as irrigation or drainage or anything in the front yard?
As far as I can tell, for this project, as it's been presented to us, we have not received it. And I would probably venture that we didn't have one for the as well, based on that we have a scope of work that was signed off on that didn't get captured with the impervious coverage.
Okay, and so the existing permits had no tree inventory or any evaluation by an arborist for the property?
I don't think so. So the applicant and I spoke after the staff report was published, and he had some clarifications to questions that I had of where the trees were for a tree removal permit that he had received. But my understanding is that, and he's going to clarify that those trees were not at the location of the current driveway.
Okay. Any other questions? Go ahead. Committee Member Chow.
Thank you. It's basically a follow-up question. Staff, if you could just clarify again, you might have said it already. So when the applicant goes to you with the landscaping plan and the tree plan, what exactly you would be looking for? You're not looking for a complete landscape plan necessarily, right? You're basically just looking at, well, if they don't add anything, they just keep everything as is. But they will have a 36-inch box tree. They keep this, the current landscaping. Would you I mean, is that what basically will meet the requirements?
So I probably wouldn't be looking for irrigation, but I could ask for an irrigation plan that would be submitted by someone who's skilled in doing irrigation. I'd be looking to see what are the plants that are there and making sure that there would be coverage, so that we don't, the pictures online, so if you go on Google Street View, show basically the trees, right? Whereas when you go in person, there is plantings that have been put into the front, and I don't know if everyone had a chance to go visit the site before today's hearing. I would want to see a reflection of what is existing there and what is being proposed. And if grass is being proposed or some sort of ground coverage, especially on that sloped area, so that it doesn't continue to be like a mulched area, that it eventually does fill in. So I'd be looking for something like that, preferably prepared by a landscape architect. Yeah,
So since we don't have a landscaping plan here,
yeah.
Forgive me for keep asking this. So they don't add anything.
What I have is what was in the staff report, which is, it's not reflective of any planting schedule. And what I'm looking for is also like the names of plants, a legend, quantities, sizes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I have a follow-up question to that.
Go
Chair,
ahead,
or
Committee
Vice
Member
Chair.
Gutney.
Thank you. If this committee asks that a landscaping plan be furnished, what is the responsibility of the homeowner to fulfill that plan?
So we've been talking about this in the office, and it's a good question because sometimes it does, I think, present an issue. In the past, at another city, I've had a condition where before permits, is it before permits are issued or before final sign off? And I know those are two very different things. Might have been final sign off, where we did require that the landscape plan be verified by a landscape architect, that it was basically implemented. And I can look and see what that condition was. I had it printed out actually for Marlon, and I didn't print it out for myself for today. So if you choose to continue today, I can provide you with that information for next time.
If we ask just because this is a request for essentially an exception, if we would ask the applicant if the applicant would agree to fulfilling the implementation of a landscape plan and signed off by a landscape architect, would that be then enforceable?
Wait, repeat it one more time because I got caught on something else at the beginning of what you said. Yes.
If, just as an example, if we, as the DRC would move or would ask the applicant if the applicant is willing to fulfill the implementation of a landscape plan before permits approval or before final sign off, those, would that be enforceable?
Yes.
If the applicant agreed to it during this meeting, for example?
Right. So we've been working internally on, we have standards of conditions. And I think for this one, what would probably happen is we would bring back standards of conditions in a subsequent meeting for approval by you guys. And then we have in those standards of conditions, literally like a place where we can initial. We would apply those standards of condition. And this is where one of the processes might be being improved. I think right now we do the standards of condition before they possibly submit it to plan check. And then we're checking it once it's come back from plan check before they get issued for permits. But we've talked internally about checking it beforehand and then checking it again, because we do have to check it again after plan check. So to be able to stamp for zoning approval, so that we're able to make sure that all the conditions are fulfilled as they're written before basically the project is allowed to be finalized. So if it is something where it's a standard that they have to show some sort of verification from a licensed architect certifying that the landscape plan has been implemented, that would be a note for final zoning, and it would have to stay with the plans, and it would stay also in notes in the system that we use to keep track of our notes.
So that would be enforceable.
It would be enforceable.
And that would be it, whether or not the applicant would agree to it verbally if we asked or not.
Yeah, I mean, it,
Or is that kind of,
you don't have to actually ask for him to agree to it. If that's a
Okay.
condition that you want to implement, you can implement, but if you want to ask him, you can ask him as well.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just curious. Thank you. That's
It's-
very
it's-
helpful
there's-
that you're explaining.
And I think the question that you're asking, is there a nexus in order to be able to enforce that? And in this case, yes, there is enough of a nexus to be
Okay.
requiring it, because what we're talking about is a front yard landscaping that includes pervious and impervious coverage.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any more questions? Okay, I have one more question. You have-
Yeah.
Go
No,
ahead.
no, no, you
No,
go
no.
ahead. Do you go ahead.
Is there, I noticed that, I believe the applicant has installed lighting in the city parkway. Is that, I've never seen that before that I've noticed. Is that something that is with, is part of the approved job that we're looking at today? Or is that something that was, I just noticed it today.
I wasn't aware of
I
that.
just noticed it. I mean, I
Let
just
me-
noticed it
Can I
today.
also see that street permit to see what's on it? Because I don't think that was part of any scope of work.
I don't know where it is.
It's
Who
not
has the
in
street
there.
permit? Oh. I just noticed 3 uplights in the parkway facing the oak trees.
My understanding for Parkway is anything that involves a parkway would probably have to be approved by Public Works, and that applies usually for trees. So I'd imagine it would carry for also anything that's electrical in nature. Like if you were to remove a tree from the parkway, you need to talk to Public Works doing the curb cuts. So my guess, but I don't have an exact answer, and I've never actually had this happen before.
I've never noticed it before until
Yeah.
I had been to the property before, but I went back again and I just noticed it and I thought
Wait,
that was,
Where
and
are
maybe
the
even,
lights?
maybe even electrical or something that's been done as if you were going to put gates possibly. If you were planning to put a gate.
So the gate wouldn't be probably allowed in the parkway itself. It would have to be on the
Right.
property line or near the property line, but not into the parkway. Yeah, and there is a parkway. The right of way for this property extends beyond the paved road, as you guys can
Yes.
tell. So there's quite a nice sized parkway in front. Any improvements to that parkway that are on city property would probably need Public Works permission, I would imagine, before any improvement can be made.
Okay, so that would have been on that
And
permit
it-
that you're showing that. So we're,
Well, this is for street, it is a street permit, so that I would think would be the place where it would be captured. I can't say for certain. But I also haven't seen anything in permits that would have showed it either, if I'm remembering permits correctly.
okay. And maybe it's on top of the soil and under the mulch wiring. Maybe it's not something that's underground. I don't know how that works, but.
I mean, if it's actually on the property itself,
Mhm.
I'm just trying to think of like how we deal with lighting.
I've never seen light
Is it
fixtures in the
uplighting
parkway.
that's going like into the
Mhm.
trees? Okay.
Mhm. Okay, my other question is when the material, we haven't seen the material in person. Have you seen it at the office? Okay. And then lastly, when they are requesting to cover the concrete, they're not going into the parkway part of coverage. They're just stopping at their property line.
The map is drawn to the property line.
Okay,
So any improvements to the parkway would have to go through, again, would have to go through Public Works.
so the applicant is only asking to put this material.
The
On
applicant
his
has only
property line.
provided plans for my understanding. And let me look one more time at the plans just to make sure that I'm seeing them correctly.
Oh, so that would be an option. Like there could be 2 permits out and we don't know about. One's asking.
No, I mean, the scope of work, so the scope of work that we're looking at, from my understanding, starts at the property line.
Okay.
It's possible that they could ask for work that would be done in the, beyond the property line in the public right of way,
Mhm.
but that wouldn't be part of the impervious coverage that we would calculate, because the way the code is written, it says your front yard stops at the property line. So we don't take currently impervious coverage in the front, in the public right of way, if there is a substantial part of public right of way into the calculations.
Right.
Yeah.
I did see something though that it said that if you're including the public right of way, you can't have over 45% impervious.
Okay,
If that's, I don't know if that's still in.
that's probably still in the
place.
code. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Any more questions? Okay, we'll go ahead. Would the applicant or the applicant's representative please present the project? Thank you.
Good evening. It's kind of hard for me to speak with, with mask on, but good evening. Thank you for coming out, for a special meeting to consider my application. And I just want to, while we're on the subject of landscaping plans, we were never asked to provide any kind of landscaping plan before. Otherwise, we would have to complied. Anyway, there were a lot of questions at the last meeting, about the history of the work performed on this house. I just want to present the events that lead up to this application. We purchased the house back in 2018, and immediately we applied and got the permit to remodel. We also got a permit to remove a non-specimen tree that is close to the front of the house, with its root causing cracks to the brick wall at the front facade. On that same tree removal permit, we were also permitted to remove another tree close to our detached garage at the back of the house. The root of that tree was buckling the floor slab and foundation wall of the garage. So we were then required to replace those two removed trees with two new ones. We agreed to plant the two new trees in the front yard. I want to give you a diagram showing the locations of the tree that was removed at the front of the property, and also the two trees that we planted in the front.
So it says received November 12th, 2021. Is this something that was submitted to the city? Because if it's not, I'm not really sure if there should be.
I just marked it on the plans that was.
You can
sent
take
before.
something that was turned in today. I don't have a copy of what he just gave you.
Yeah. I guess it would be helpful to know if.
This is the new submittal, which you can turn in today. It looks like it's not, sorry, let me go back.
Yeah.
We actually do have one person who's in attendance online, so it looks like he used what we stamped as the project, the site map, and then put new items on top of it. So that would be considered a new item today, and we can take it in today as an example.
I agree, that's what I did.
And this is showing the two locations of the trees that were removed. That's
This
what
will
you're
sh-
showing.
This will show the location of the tree that was in the front that we requested to remove, and also the two trees that we agreed to replace. Both of the replacement trees are in the front.
Okay. Are you gonna pass that on? or no?
So-
That's okay.
You have already replaced them.
Yes, they are already planted.
And that, sorry, the staff here.
Vice Chair, perhaps he could go forward with his presentation as we're looking at that.
Can I ask a question? I have the picture of the home from the listing in 2018 that shows the tree quite well. Is that something that I could show everyone?
Yeah.
Along with this?
I think let's have him finish his presentation and then do questions, if that's okay.
You want to go ahead? Go ahead.
Oh, no, I just asked if maybe we can let him finish and
Yes,
then we
as I
can
said,
do
go ahead.
questions after.
We're doing a remodel in 2019. We realized that the Virginia Road is a very busy street at certain hours of the day. And it is very hazardous to get in and out of the single driveway. And especially when my neighbor to the south has overgrown vegetation in the public, parkway, blocking views from passing traffic. So many contractors almost had accidents getting out of the driveway. So we requested to install a circular driveway, which is allowed in the district where this house is located in. So we submit our plans to planning to install this circular driveway. Even though there were no trees located in the path of the proposed circular driveway and no additional trees are asked to be removed, we were asked to submit a report by a registered arborist on any adverse effect to the 4 oak trees in the front. The arborist report concluded that the proposed circular driveway is it will not affect the oak trees. So we got the approval from planning and public works to install the circular driveway. We were required to install barricade around the oak trees during construction to protect the trees. I cannot say what happened and what rules that were on the books at that time, allowing planning staff to make the determination not to bring the application before DRC. But anyway, we did receive planning approval to proceed with the circular driveway, and the circular driveway was installed in 2020. Also in 2020, during the final plumbing test, our plumbing contractor found that a portion of the sewer line under the parkway area was blocked and damaged, and they recommended a replacement. So we applied for the street permit to replace the damaged sewer line and install new curb cuts at the same time. It was approved by Public Works, of course, and also by planning. So no tree at that time were removed. That was completed in 2020. Our remodel was finalized earlier this year, but now we find that the pea gravel at the top of the circular driveway very messy. That's why we are applying to cover the whole circular driveway with a 6x6 granite cobblestone. We also think that it will lend a little more rustic and natural feel to the house. We are not asking to add or rip out any concrete at this point. And we are not asking to take out any trees. And we're not asking to change or add any steps leading up to the front door and up to the side gates. Everything will stay in place. And we are only proposing to cover the existing circular driveway with cobblestone. The stones will be molded over the existing driveway. And I also want to add that, we have unanimous approval from our neighbors, and I hope that we can, you can take that into considerations and approve my application. And if you have any more questions, I'm here to answer.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Committee Member McKay.
Thank you. Do you have any example or exemplar of the cobblestone with you?
Oh, I bought it last time. I left it in the car. I can just go there and grab it real fast.
Well, I'll see if my fellow committee members are as interested in seeing it as I am, because I have some questions about that. I know I asked at the last, when this application was before us last October 2021. I'm just concerned again about the repaving with the cobblestones destabilizing the oak trees, especially the one that is supported by those metal supports, which is quite striking.
Mhm.
Two supports for that one tree.
We are not going to do any digging. We're merely motor, the cobblestone over the existing concrete driveway. So there should not be any kind of disturbance. But if you want to request another arborist report to make sure that that can be done without any adverse effect, I'm more than welcome to do that, to comply.
Do you have a project designer for this project?
Yes.
And does the project designer believe that the cobblestone that you're proposing is consistent and compatible with the architecture of your home?
Yes.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions for the applicant?
Regarding the lights, okay, I remember now, you asked a question about those lights. Those are low voltage lights that can be removed, anytime. And there's no intention for us to install any gates in the front, along the driveway. We already have a gate, at the
Yes.
end of that. There's no intention for us to do that.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Committee Member Batnij.
So if I understood you correctly, you were saying that the main reason why you want to do this is because the pea gravel is unattractive and bothersome.
It's really messy.
Okay.
Every time we drive over it, I think it's because it's up on top and it's not on level ground. On level ground, it might not be as much a problem, but it's up on top. So every time you drive over there, you tread some, and lose some and.
I have a question. So was there ever any consideration to just make that part match in concrete to the rest of it?
Well,
Because it's a very small area. I was just wondering.
we thought that, this is what our design team thinks. The house, even though it was built back in the 40s and 50s, actually has a very, very modern feel to it. We have not altered the front at all.
Excuse me?
So it has a very modern feel to it.
Wait, I'm sorry. You said you haven't altered the front at all?
We have not. The structure in the front is exactly the same as it was,
The house?
yes,
It's not exactly the same.
I'm sorry,
Exactly the same?
not
No,
exactly the
front
same.
door. The front door has been changed?
Yeah, the
moved.
front door has been changed, but
The
it's,
location.
but I think I'm talking about the structure, or the
walls.
architectural, the walls, and also the location of the windows. They are, exactly where they are. And after, the reason we have to change those windows is because they were old casement windows that are not operational. And also there was problem with egress that, building department would not, is it me?
It might be that high, unfortunately.
Okay, so, it was an egress problem. So when we look at the house, it has a very, very modern feel to it, a mid-century modern feel to it. And it, to me, this is not in a neighborhood for really contemporary looking house, but it does have a pitched roof, to it, and you're very, very, a pitch roof to it. And we think that, to do too much concrete would be concrete on concrete. So we think that, something a little bit more rustic and natural. The design team really want to go for something natural, not, a lot of people in this town nowadays are using concrete pavers. That's easy to install. That is, very uniform. But design team really want to go for a very natural feel to it. So to kind of like, make this an updated mid-century home instead of, making feel even more concrete. And that was the reason why we proposed, a granite cobble. Even though it's more expensive, actually it's very expensive to do that. But we think that, it will add to the overall design of the house. And what we are trying to do is really, bring a good project to the city. We have no idea that maybe something was missed that we did not, I don't, this is what I guess what happened before. The reason for that, pea gravel was something to do with pervious and impervious calculations. So, it might be that, and that's why it was there. And, because the codes at that time, I don't know whether, it's the same or it's different or whatever, but that was the determination. I don't know.
Can I-
Coming up. Okay. Any other questions? Committee member Chow?
Thank you. So I'm looking at the photos I took today when you were there, when I visited. And if you could just confirm again, because I want to just kind of point out that you said that on the side, you have these natural stone looking steps, right? Leading up to
Yes,
one side of the house.
yes.
Those will remain. You're not
Yes.
touching those. Okay.
Everything that's going up to the front door, all the steps, and going up to the front door and the steps going up to the side gate on the north side, all those remain and will not be
Because
touched.
these steps, they are more, it seems to me, well, they're natural stone. And they seem to have a look of the granite
Yes,
cobble you're proposing
Yes.
here. So again, thanks for confirmation.
Yes.
So these will remain there.
yes.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
we're only asking to cover the concrete portion of the circular driveway and the pea gravel area. We're not going into the public right of way because that's not our intention and it's not, what we asked for. And
Okay.
you guys mentioned something about the landscaping and public drive right away. Up in that area, everybody, have plantings in the public right of way. And so like my next door neighbor, I wish that they did not plant so much vegetations and cause us to, have problem getting in and out.
Thank you. Can I comment on something? The public right of way vegetation is only supposed to be 24 inches high. And when I was at your property, I noticed your next door neighbors, and that is a very dangerous situation.
Yes,
And I would call code compliance, and I mean, not to cause a problem in your neighborhood, but sometimes people just don't know, I think, and
we were
Just
new,
grow.
we were new to the neighborhood.
plants are.
And we really do not want to start off on the wrong foot, even though it's been like a couple of years and stuff like that. And,
I
we're
understand.
still new, but,
I understand, but that's kind of situation going forward.
we're the kind of people that, we're the type that we respect, other people's home ownership. And if that's what they want to do, let them do it. And we just have to accommodate and work around it. And that's why we're doing the circular driveway. Because like my wife, have terrible time getting out and things like that.
Okay. Any questions? No one? Any public comments today? Yeah.
We do have one person online. If they wish to make public comment, I suggest now would be a good time to either raise your hand or unmute yourself. No, we'll give you a moment to do that if so desired. I'm not seeing any indication that that is happening, so I believe we have no public comment.
Great, okay, then I will close public hearing. And I will start with committee member Tony Chow.
Sure. I mean, it sounds like the applicant and us, we're all kind of thinking the same thing. We want to improve on what we're viewing as the facade right now. My main problem is the city missed something prior and we can't go back on that, but moving forward, to approve this with a condition and then to have you come back, it's not an efficient use of anybody's time. I think if you're gonna come back, it should be with like a landscaping plan and for us to approve that specific plan, so there aren't question marks. But that's my 2 cents.
Thank you. Committee member Betnage.
Okay, trying to sort through the history of this project is admittedly a little bit difficult, but it seems somewhat, it seems absolutely possible, piecing things together, that the pea gravel portion was intentionally not permitted or allowed by the city, and that's why it's there. And so essentially, we're kind of getting a after the fact approval with this new material. That's kind of what it looks like to me. Which doesn't necessarily really sit well with me, but on the other hand, I agree that that pea gravel is terrible and it would look a lot better if it wasn't there. How that is actually addressed, it seems like there's different ways to address it. It seems like you could just ask us to pave, if you could just cover that area with concrete, and that would maybe solve your problem. The material that I think that you've proposed, we saw it, you brought something in here, but you said it's not really going to be that. It's going to be something similar, not quite that. It's going to be only the top. So I don't feel quite like we actually know exactly what the material is going to look like. And is it going to be, I'm sorry, I should have asked this of the applicant, but I don't know if it's going to be real granite. I think I would appreciate an actual sample of the material, not just something like this material that's kind of going to be granite. Now, you showed us last time. It's kind of a deep, I'm sorry, Vice Chair, is it?
Can I go to the car and get that?
Is it the same thing that you showed us last time?
Yes.
Okay, I don't think that it's necessary because you told us that you would not be using that material.
no.
It would be something like that material.
No, it was exactly the same material, except the size would be different. It's going to be 6 by 6. The actual size that I showed you last time is a 4 by 8. I can go to the car and grab it.
I don't think that that's
sorry.
necessary, but
That
thank
won't be
you.
necessary.
Thank you. Thank you for answering my question.
Yeah, it is a
I-
granite, your
Yeah.
cobblestone.
Okay.
And I showed it to the planning staff before.
Yes, you showed it to us as well last time.
It was,
Okay, thank you.
it was not
Thank you.
exactly like the size that we want to do, but it's a 6 by
Thank you.
6
We
because it's going to be
we
custom
understand.
made.
We have to go on with her.
Yeah,
Committee member
sorry, I
comments.
should
Thank
have.
you. Thank you.
Sorry, Vice Chair, I should have
ahead.
asked that earlier, but. So how we address this kind of issue of like, there's pea gravel in the middle, which is, I think maybe it could remain as is, it could be covered with concrete to match the rest of the driveway. It could be redone with this granite or this material, granite-like material, if not just granite material, the 6 by 6 granite cobblestones. I guess we have different options in front of us. I'm also concerned about the landscape plan at the very minimum. At the very minimum, I would want to come back and actually see it. I don't think, I would actually want to have that be submitted and reviewed by the DRC. I'm also wondering how it will look that there would be granite, that there would be a granite driveway where the rest of it is very concrete. I don't necessarily think it would look bad, but I'm not sure if it will improve, significantly in the property. I would like to hear from my fellow committee members to see what their conclusions are about this, and perhaps some suggestions for motions that we could discuss and consider. Because I think this is a little bit not so straightforward.
I-
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Committee Member McKay.
Thank you. I guess I'm disappointed, and I very much appreciate your presentation and your and your wife's desires to improve the property. Very much appreciate that. The need for the circular driveway, I understand that, and the safety issues, and I can recognize your respect for your neighboring homeowners as well. But this is not, I don't feel this is ripe. I don't feel it was ripe enough to be presented tonight. I think it's still premature. I don't think we know what we're approving. So I'm just a bit disappointed that it's less than 2 months later, we're seeing it, and I'm not seeing that our questions have been answered. So I don't think it's premature. I don't think I could approve it tonight. I also appreciate my fellow committee member Batnage's comments about perhaps making this a much more straightforward and simple project by just taking out the problematic pea gravel, because and I would be, I would very much respect and be interested in my fellow committee members' opinions on this. But given the architecture of the house, if we are agreeing that it's a mid-century / modern, I think that the concrete actually is appropriate and is compatible. Perhaps more so than the rustic granite cobblestone, but I don't want to be an arbiter or adjudicator of the design of your front yard, but I would just suggest that may be actually more appropriate. So I just have 2 months later, I don't have the level of understanding, familiarity, and comfort with the project that I feel comfortable approving it tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Committee Member Rick Chow.
Thank you. I think, my fellow colleague said, that this is unfortunately not a very straightforward case because of the history and other factors. I was trying to just focus on the analysis from staff and to get past that and say that, okay, all right, that's already done. And we can't really go back and revoke the permit. So let's just look at the architectural design elements. So that's what I'm kind of focusing on. And I think that the main thing architecturally in design element is in regards of that, is that this house just has so much concrete. You look at it, I think that's, well, it's already there, so much concrete. And then on the side, you have these pretty nice, very nice steps, natural stone going up. But now, if we're introducing another material, personally, I just can't see, it's hard to visualize, and my concern is that we're going to end up with all these different material, and I'm not completely convinced that the cobblestone is going to jive with other concrete. And the side steps, that's another material. Another thing I think it's not helping is me visualizing is that, let's just say you've had the cobblestone there, but then one thing really strikes me is all these huge concrete service steps leading all the way up to the front door. Then you have this cobblestone, then all of a sudden you have this very kind of almost contrast. That doesn't really sit that well. So that's my take on this. We can't tell you to just, hey, look, use any material or just patch up connect the middle with concrete. But with your current setup, that's not, it's probably an option that you might want to consider. But of course, you should also think about what material is right for you. And try, you can present it again, or not present it and just don't do it. So I can't really support it today. I'm not sure we continue this or reject it. So that's kind of up to the other members' suggestions. Thank you.
Thank you. As far as my comments go, I appreciate the work you've done to improve the property. As my other committee member stated, the process has been difficult, and it's I feel it's an unfortunate situation to have this put through like this. And if we could go back, I don't think the amount of impervious would be approved at all at this date. I find that there's already so much concrete, and the steps leading up to the house are very bold and heavy, and they are a little too much for such a natural setting. But we're here to approve the driveway and the material. So when I went to the property, I just really, I found that there was already so much concrete. So my main issue now is that the numbers on the plan that was in the packet are not accurate. They're not what I saw today. And I used my professional grade measuring stick. So if we were to continue the project, it would have to come back accurate, because the numbers were very off. And so it would be hard for me to make any decision based on that alone. I do think I agree with the other members that we need a landscaping plan, maybe to mitigate all of that concrete and closer to the house, between the driveway and the house. Also, I think that we need an arborist to come and assess the health of the 4 oak trees in the front and the 2 oak trees on the side. That the roots look like there has been some kind of, it looks like that area has maybe been excavated. And it looks like there's a lot of exposure there. It just looks like they're not in good shape. I don't know what's happened, but those 4 trees, especially the 4 in the front, they don't look very healthy. And I don't know what that is, because you said you had an arborist come and that they were not at risk, but something, there was a lot of digging and trenching, I would think, because I see a lot of work that has been done. So I would like an arborist report to see how those trees are responding to the work. And I had another question about electricity, and I noticed, and you already addressed that with saying that there will be no gates proposed moving forward. But overall, I find that the project doesn't quite look complete yet. And I think a full landscape plan and more a visual with color, something that would give us a committee a better understanding of what you are proposing. Because I think we're all having a hard time with it. And as committee members also stated, the pea gravel, that was the other option. We all understand that the pea gravel is very difficult to use. And whether or not enclosing that with concrete was an option or not. So I think that we need a landscape plan. We need a colored rendering. We need the landscape plan to be done by a landscape architect, possibly a tree report. And
The measurements.
the measurements to be accurate, very accurate. if we decided to continue the project. So does anyone here have would like to discuss this further? Sorry. Go
Oh, no,
ahead.
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
We need to discuss this. Go ahead, Committee Member
Okay,
Chapman.
so I think all those suggestions are valid. But let me just kind of amongst us to kind of discuss a little bit. So if those were provided to us next time, but with the same granite cobblestone, are we gonna approve that? Or, well, we just gonna say that, well, you really need to kind of look into a different material.
I was wondering the same thing, Committee Member Chow, because I think if I am not mistaken, I think several of us have concerns about that material. So I don't want to waste the applicant's time and suggest that I just want to give the applicant proper direction is what I'm trying to say. And if indeed the majority opinion of this committee is that is not the appropriate material, I think we should communicate that today. If we think that it's maybe not quite right, but we can live with it, then we should also communicate that today. But I mean, I see some, despite the lack of any improvement or more information in this application this time around, I am sensing some goodwill here. So I don't think that I'm ready to deny this. I think that personally, we're talking about some sort of a continuation, but with some maybe direction. I don't know if the other committee members feel the same way.
Right.
I know two of you were expressing your concern with the actual material, and maybe three of you,
That would be,
three people.
because if we're trying to be as constructive as
Mhm.
possible, again, not wasting
Right.
time in the staff's effort and all that. I personally just think that cobblestone treatment against that so much concrete immediately after, because you're looking directly, they're all lined up, unfortunately leading up to the front door. I just don't think it's a right look in terms of design and.
I agree with that.
Okay, so we have three members that would probably not be able to approve that. So I
I
think.
also would, I'm so sorry.
No,
I
go
keep
ahead,
interrupting
because
you, Vice Chair.
I just think there's so much concrete anyway, and we're already over it. I think we're over even this number that we're being given because the measurements are off. So just that amount of concrete and then on top, and then the granite on top of concrete, it just seems so heavy and so much material that makes the property look less natural and is more, what is the word? Damaging to the property, to the ground. It just seems like it's too much, it's too excessive.
Yeah, I somewhat disagree, but I disagree with the hint of like, it would really need a designer's like holistic view. And that, I think that's why we're
Yes.
kind of stuck on the landscaping plan.
Mhm,
I'm okay with the material itself. I'm a little worried about the thickness.
mhm.
And I think we spoke a little bit about it last time. But personally, I'm okay with the material, but I think that's why I'm kind of stuck on the landscape plan is I think you would really have to take a step back and holistically design around the entirety versus just kind of looking at swapping out the cobblestones. So that's my own opinion. Yeah.
Yeah. Can I make
Go
another
ahead.
comment?
Go
I
ahead.
was also just want to discuss, like, I wonder also if I think we all agree, or at least most of us agree, at least from what I've heard of the comments, that there's, let's just say, too much concrete, that there's just an awful lot of concrete. And given the fact that we seem to think that, I'm just wondering also if the applicant could consider coming back and removing some concrete. Like if, you know, the applicant wants something from us, I think we want something from the applicant. You know, are there any places that the concrete could be cut away and add some more landscaping? I understand that we don't want someone to
Well, I'm sorry, but
totally excavate
no, but
whatever.
that will have to be done. with this plan, that's what came up in the, with staff's questions, that since the driveway is too wide and wider than it's being proposed, that they're going to have to remove almost 2 feet of driveway on
Right.
that north
Right.
side. I don't know how involved that is. Does that mean you'd have to take it all up or you cut it? I don't know.
So do you think that we have given the applicant enough direction, right now, or?
Uh,
Looks like-
I
just wanna make a
agree with
comment.
Tony, also, Committee Member Chow, that it needs a full plan because it's really hard to imagine this driveway with what material, what information we're given today. Go ahead.
I just want to say that, talking about what the material is, we really don't know what that material is. We really don't know what it's going to look like. So there's a good amount of speculation, really, tonight. There is.
Mhm.
And is it that we are objecting to that much concrete or that we're objecting to that much impervious coverage
Mhm.
of the front? Is it concrete or is it impervious? I think it's impervious because I
Mhm,
don't know
yes.
that the cobblestone fixes it.
Correct.
That's just my observation.
I agree. Yeah. Any other thoughts? It was just,
I'm just wondering if, what kind of a motion would we agree on as a committee? Would it be to continue and for the applicant to
I-
take into consider everything that we suggested and commented on?
I think
or-
we can probably continue the item, and then it's up to the applicant to decide what to do.
I agree.
It would be helpful for staff if we had a list of what
Mhm.
we're asking them though, to come back with so that staff can make sure that we're following up with the items that were asked for. That was part of the problem, I think, also from today, is that we didn't necessarily have that list. Unfortunately.
Hmm.
Well, I think the landscaping plan and the tree planting plan, arborist report, those are 3
Oh,
items.
we did.
Correct dimensions and reconsideration of the material that's being used also.
And we didn't talk about the 2 trees that were, I meant to bring that up when he mentioned there was 2 trees that have been planted in the front. And then the staff's suggestions that they plant 1 tree. One of the trees that was planted in the front, they're Japanese maples. One is, I believe, dead. And the other one doesn't look good, but one of them is crispy and not just dry leaves, but the one on the north side looks dead to me. So I think that we should look at adding the trees.
To the
Conditioning
arborist
more
report?
trees into the, more than the one, into our condition.
And the main thing about the material, I think the applicant had heard enough feedback. So we can't really suggest any material, but the consensus, I think majority is that particular material, the cobblestone, is not a good fit. So that part, the applicant will have to decide what he wants to do.
It would be.
Is that,
I'm only interrupting so that to prepare for later, when you guys do make the motion, if it would help me if I have notes that I've made, if I could list out what I think would be included in the motion, and then we can make corrections as you see fit. Would that work for you
Yeah.
guys? And
Shall
you
I
can
give it a
continue
stab?
your
And
Shall I give it a
discussion.
stab?
Oh,
Or are you ready?
No, almost. We didn't discuss the landscaping on the hill next to the home, between the driveway and the house, where maybe there's an erosion concern or something. Is there any type of plantings or that we want the applicant to bring?
Part
In
of
the plan,
landscaping plan, right?
The one there's like a hill that's right next to the house, to the right of the walkway when you're going towards the house. Is there more plantings that we want to see there, anything specific or?
I think the landscaping plan could include the
Right.
whole front yard, really, right? I mean, it's not just
Yeah.
the driveway
Yes.
area.
No, it's the whole front
Yeah,
yard, right?
yeah.
But is there
It's
anything?
visible From
Right.
the street, right?
Right.
Are you saying to the park, to the paved right of way or
No.
the property line?
No, I'm talking about from the driveway to the home.
It should be the property line, right?
Right,
That's-
right. I
that's
mean, we
what's
want,
under
we
our
want a landscape
purview.
plan for the entire property, but specifically a type of landscaping that there was a mention of some kind of erosion that was going on with that slope, because that used to have a retaining wall had been removed. So there was a retaining wall just to the left of the driveway before you get to the gate.
So to clarify, we're not talking about the parkway.
No, we're not talking about the parkway. We're
Thank you.
talking about the property owners' property.
But addressing potential erosion concerns or,
Okay. Okay.
so, yeah,
No.
what I have written down just from notes from listening, it was landscaping plan, I would add including irrigation, tree planting plan, arborist report, reconsideration of material or an alternate material, making sure that the proper measurements have been included or updated measurements. And adding trees and, yeah, I think that's all I have.
Did you guys want a number?
We're gonna make it,
trees?
we're gonna add all of this condition. You'll have all the conditions when we make the motion.
Okay.
Yeah,
Does anyone want to?
I'll take a stab at it. If you guys are, yeah, are we ready?
Are we ready?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I would move to continue design review case number DRC 21-53 at 1300 Virginia Road. And we would continue it to a date uncertain. And we would continue it with certain conditions. One would be that we will need an arborist report for all trees in the entire front yard up to the property line. Second, we will need a full landscape plan, again, for the entire front yard up to the property line, which incorporates irrigation, any plans for additional trees, a brief report on the condition of the existing trees, including the oak trees, including the Japanese maples. Am I missing anything on the landscape plan? Third, third, we would have color rendering with plans that contain correct and accurate dimensions and measurements. And within that color rendering, let's make sure that any illumination and lighting is included. Any planting, any plans for planting, any shrubs, not just trees. And that the applicant would consider taking another look at the material that's going to be used for the driveway. Have I forgotten anything?
Adding trees?
I said adding trees on the arborist report.
We don't
Any
need a
additional
number.
trees?
We don't need we don't need any numbers.
Are we gonna impose a
we-
number on that?
Do we have to?
It depends on how the existing trees are. If the existing trees are not in good shape, then he
Okay.
needs to adjust accordingly,
Okay.
I would say.
Okay.
Again, if there are existing trees that are not in good shape, then the ultimate tree plan for the front needs to incorporate that and perhaps consider replacement.
Great. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Do you want me to go through and read them just to make sure that I've captured it? No, okay.
Why don't you go ahead and read them? That'd be great.
Sorry,
Thank you.
I'm concerned. There was a lot there and I didn't keep up. A landscape plan with visuals in color that includes irrigation plan
No,
and
no,
existing.
no.
Nope. Let's try this again.
Wait.
Sorry,
Yeah.
no,
No.
no.
Okay, let's try it again.
Okay, we're gonna start over.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I start over?
Yeah.
Because I went through all of it and it started with the arborist report.
Okay, so we can start with the arborist report.
That was what I had started with.
You started with the
No, I started with the arborist
Arborist
report.
report,
Yeah,
yes.
I was going based on active listening of how I had listed it, but it has the arborist report.
Okay.
Arborist.
I'm moving to continue design review case number DRC 21-53 at 1300 Virginia Road. And we're continuing it to a date uncertain, and we're continuing it with very specific conditions. Condition number one, we need a full arborist report for all trees in the front yard up to the property line. That includes the condition of all existing trees and any, well, that includes the condition of all existing trees, because it will incorporate in the landscape plan what the plan is for future trees. But it's not just the oaks, also includes the Japanese maples and any trees in the front. We need to have a brief description of how all of those trees are doing. Second, we need a landscape plan that is for the entire front yard, again, up to the property line. This landscape plan will include, am I going too fast again?
Yeah, hold on. Okay, so landscape plan up to PL, including irrigation, you
That
mentioned.
is going to be prepared by a landscape architect, okay?
Yeah.
That is going to include irrigation,
Hold on,
a full treatment of irrigation.
hold on. So it's an irrigation plan. That would be a separate plan, just so you know.
That'll be incorporated in this.
Yeah. Okay.
As well as any illumination or lighting.
Okay.
As well as any treatment of trees that need to be replaced, any plans for additional trees. So that would be current trees that are not in good condition and need to be replaced, as well as additional trees that are proposed. And the details of same. And you got before I move to the next one, you did get everything on the arborist report, correct?
Yeah,
Okay,
and then I would recommend for the landscape plan, if you want to get specific, that you ask for the species. If you're proposing plants, that we ask for quantities and species of the plants that are being
of
proposed.
course. Yes, I'm sorry. And I had said that the first time. This landscape plan will incorporate also any plantings, not just trees, but any plantings. Shrubs, etc. Okay. Third, that we will have a color rendering and full plans that incorporate correct and accurate dimensions. Of that total front yard area. The portion of the front yard that's subject to our approval. And that includes the accurate and correct dimensions, especially for what percentage is impermeable.
Hold on. Okay.
For the driveway, I mean, you know, we need
Accurate measurements of the
Yeah,
existing
accurate.
condition.
accurate measurements of the existing conditions and the proposed. And a color rendering is going to be incorporated within that.
Okay. Okay.
And finally, that the applicant would consider the comments that have been made by the committee members this evening and potentially reconsider the choice of material for the driveway and for the replacement of the pea gravel that has become problematic.
You did not mention cobblestone. Do you want me to specifically talk about the cobblestone?
Well, that's what we've been commenting on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is the proposed material that we haven't seen, that we have questions on and concerns about.
Okay.
Do you want to read it back to us? Would you like to read it back to
I
us?
can. Arborist report full for all trees up to the property line that includes condition of all existing trees. Landscape plan up to the property line, including prepared by landscape prepared by landscape architect, including irrigation plan, illumination or lighting, treatment of trees to be replaced, as well as additional trees proposed, and details of the same quantities, species of any plantings. Color rendering and plans that incorporate correct and accurate dimensions of the front yard, including accurate dimensions of what percentages are impermeable, including for driveway, existing and proposed. Applicant to reconsider choice of material of cobblestone for driveway and the peat gravel.
In light of the comments that have been made at the meeting, which are available per the recording of the meeting, correct?
Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
And we did have a second? Did you second?
Yeah, I already seconded, but I'll second again.
Okay,
Uh,
we're ready.
Ready for call
Ready
for
for roll
vote.
call.
Member Botnish,
Yes.
member McKay,
Yes.
member Rick Chow,
Yes.
Tony Chow,
Yes.
Vice Chair Lakon.
Yes.
So that's unanimous.
Okay, thank you very much. And that will be the end of our meeting.
You scheduled to
Do
meet
we
next
have-
January 5th.
Our next meeting will be January 5th. Will be located here,
Yep.
as far as we know.
Yes,
Okay, and we are adjourned.
we don't have anyone for open forum as far as I understand, so we are adjourned.
We're adjourned. Okay, and no one here. Thank you very much. Thank you for
Thank you.
attending.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Do you know how many